I think we want to watch this. I'm curious what he's saying here.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been playing a video game and started to
Yes,
feel
I have.
embarrassed?
It keeps going to 480p. Come on. At least give me like decent enough quality.
Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been playing a video game and started to feel embarrassed? Or maybe guilty, maybe ashamed? I
No.
have, and I suspect many
I mean,
watching are probably answering yes as well. Last year, I
I've
published
had
a
people
video
try to make
talking
me feel
about this
that way.
feeling and my own journey to try and accept my love of video games. It seemed to resonate with a lot of people, but still, I've continued to see so many comments from people in the months since I posted it that have spoken to their struggles with accepting their love of this hobby. Why do so many of us feel this way? And more importantly, how do you get these feelings to stop? I've loved gaming since I was a kid, and at that time, I never thought anything of it. Kids tend not to think in those terms, focused instead on the present moment and enjoying whatever it is that they're doing. Once I grew into my teens, though, that simplicity faded away. You start to
Right.
develop an awareness of how you're being perceived at that age. It doesn't help that
Yeah.
you're surrounded by other young people who don't have much of a filter, to say the least. I became fearful of having new friends over to my house solely because I didn't want them to see how big my video game collection was. I became increasingly asocial.
See, the one thing that was different about me is when I just didn't have people over to my house because I just didn't have friends. But if I brought them over, I wanted them to see how big my collection was. If anything, I was just concerned about how small my collection was. Which is weird because my collection was still bigger than any of theirs. Um, just because it's a huge passion of mine. You can't see behind my curtain back there because this room also functions as our attic. Um, so there's just a bunch of boxes and shit tossed in here. Um, but I've got one, two, three, four, five shelves full of games. Not all of them are massive. One of them's only like this big and this wide, which is my Switch One shelf. Like this, well, I guess aside from my ground, you can't really see that well. But like probably like up to here on me. Um, I think full of Switch One games. I've got a tall shelf, taller than me, full of PS2 games, and a second one of that same shelf that's got PS1, PS3, PS4, PS5, Xbox 360, and Xbox One games, um, and PSP. And then I've got a third one that's almost the same. I forget if it might technically be taller, but I don't remember the number of shelves off the top of my head. But it's got my NES, SNES, and 64 on it, and Genesis. And then I got a separate one that's probably about the same height as the that Switch one, but wider. That's got like Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, GameCube, Wii, and Wii U, all on them. But and the collection is ever expanding. I'm I'm in desperate needs of more shelves because I don't have anywhere to put my Game Gear games, and I'm running out of space on the retro shelf with the NES, SNES, and N64. Okay, I'm desperate need of new shelves, but I don't know. Anyway, let's keep going.
Opting to just stay home and play video games by myself. As a kid, I played them with my friends, but as I got older, partying became the pervasive means of socializing.
I never really did much partying. Um, I hosted one party at one of my apartments once, and that was when I was like I'd be like 23, 24. So like 4 or 5 years ago. That's literally it. Partying was just never really my thing. I'd go to like family parties or like work parties if we had them, or to friends like birthday parties or something. Like we'd go hang out for a birthday. But I was more of just a relaxed type of social place or person. Like I would go to a bar or something with people. Like not as a high schooler though. High schoolers would go to the movies. That was my thing. Go to the movies or play games. Like going to the movies was my main thing. I worked at a movie theater in high school, so I could get into the movies for free. That was my main way of hanging out with people.
It's so strange to think back to that time because I just completely took for granted how embarrassed I was by my video games. I never stopped to actually think about why I felt the way that I felt. Why do we feel this way?
I was never embarrassed. I always took it in stride, personally, for better or for worse. My family does not wish that I did, but it was always something that I was super proud about.
That's a tough question to answer. I think it's
passionate.
largely attributable to how video games are perceived, which obviously directly influences the perceptions of the people who play them. Back in the early days, games were a niche, new form of entertainment composed of bleeps, bloops, and incredibly rudimentary facsimiles. It was hard for a lot of people to understand, especially when compared to film or music. These were universal forms of entertainment that required almost no barrier to entry. Video games, though, required direct participation. The buttons you were pushing changed what was happening on the screen. Imagine the novelty of that. It was, amongst other things, unapologetically new, and new is often misunderstood. New things are also most adopted by younger people, which meant that video games were being gobbled up by kids. This led the medium to look like a glorified toy, something that most adults just wouldn't understand.
Yeah, glorified toy, and also just like something that is for kids. It's weird how there's a lot of adults will have this opinion that video games are for kids, but then also complain about them not being suited for kids most of the time. I think it should be something that's exclusively for kids, and every game should be kid friendly. When in reality, it should be looked at the same way as a movie or TV show, just interactive. It's the same kind of form of entertainment. Not every movie has to be kid friendly. Not every game should have to be kid friendly. That's what the rating system is for. If a movie's rated R, don't let your kid watch it if you don't want them seeing stuff that's inappropriate for kids. Or at least what's inappropriate for kids can be subjective, but that's what the rating system is for. Read the content warnings on there. If a game is rated M, there's likely some stuff in there that you wouldn't want your kids seeing. Don't blame the game. Blame the blame the parents for the most part. Don't let your kid play the game if it's got stuff that you don't want in it. It's not that hard to do your own research on this kind of stuff. It's a quick Google search. Common sense media will do you wonders.
And beyond that, as you and I both know, video games are profoundly fun, which meant that these kids would much rather be playing them than, say, doing their homework. Video games began to look like nothing more than a distraction, nothing more than a waste of time. I'm sure we've all been told at some point that games are going to rot our brains.
Oh yeah,
you've probably heard that a lot.
A
These
lot.
Types of comments may
That
seem
exact
innocuous,
terminology.
but they have a compounding effect. If we hear that something is bad often enough, we start to believe it whether we want to or not. I've always been a vocal defender of this medium, but it doesn't matter how much I talk, those feelings of guilt and shame still creep in. As the decades have rolled on, the stereotypical gamer, quote-unquote, has become a pariah. Someone with glasses, acne, and a distinct lack of social acumen. None of those traits are even objectively bad, but society says that they are, and so we listen. I mean, seriously, how many times have you seen that type of character in a movie, or sitcom, or music video? Sometimes things work out for that character, but more often than not, they're just the butt of the jokes. Even when things do go their way, it's usually because they manage to grow out of their nerdy persona into someone more conventionally attractive and charismatic. What are these types of characters almost always shown doing or discussing? Playing video games. Of course, the societal framing of the medium goes beyond just scripted material. As gaming has grown up, so too have the gamers themselves, which has led to innumerable video games that incorporate more violent subject matter to appeal to an older demographic. Some of these games are terrible, some are incredible, but the sad truth of such mature imagery present in the medium is that video games have become the go-to scapegoat to explain violent acts and outbursts. These types of assertions do not make sense, but that doesn't really matter. If you hear it enough, it will affect you. We may all understand that video games and other entertainment aren't responsible for the behavior of other people, and yet those feelings of guilt and shame still creep in. All of this societal weight is a lot
I need to
carry,
play Disc
especially at a younger age. and it impacts how we interact with each other on a micro level. Have you ever been made fun of for playing video games? I have, and I bet many of you watching have experience with that too.
Sure.
Have you
Yeah.
ever been made fun of for watching movies, or playing sports, or learning the guitar? The odds are a lot less likely. These activities are far too...
And I've yeah, I think pretty much everybody my age or younger, and probably in the current generation of kids, I feel like video games are what like all the kids talk about. So I feel like it's less frowned upon within themselves. By adults, obviously, a whole different story. But amongst themselves, I don't think they're embarrassed to say they play games. Other than them, there might be some that are still embarrassed when they hit like that 12, 13 age range to still be like playing Nintendo games or something. Maybe that's still cringe. I don't know. Part of me was kind of embarrassed of that in a way. Not necessarily embarrassed, but like felt like people would make fun of me, which I guess isn't technically the same thing. Because I still vividly believed what I still believe to this day is that just because it's family friendly doesn't mean it's for kids only. Um, just like Disney and Pixar classics. The Lion King is my favorite movie of all time. Movie that was made for kids, but an adult can still enjoy it. Like it's just because it's friendly for kids doesn't mean that only kids can watch it. It's it just means that it is friendly, like kids are able to watch it. And some people say it's made specifically for kids, and that's true. But a lot of parents most of the time walked out of Disney and Pixar movies, saying, those are pretty darn good movies. Nowadays, it's not so that being kid friendly that's a problem. It's just that the perception around their movies has changed a lot. But like during the classics, especially like the Renaissance era and the 2000s, like the 2000s, if you're in Pixar, that it was just I don't know. I was more embarrassed of that than anything. But then also for something like playing the guitar, as you said, an example, getting made fun of for that. That's more so of something that you're practicing an actual skill that can be that when we were kids is something that could be applied to a career or something in the future. Whereas at the time, video games was not. Which video games is still less viable, I would think, than learning an instrument to end up becoming a career. It can be great, but like it's a lot harder because a lot of people are trying to do that. But still,
ubiquitous to be used as ammunition for bullying, or they're just viewed as cool. Playing video games didn't get so lucky, although as more and more young people are exposed to the hobby, I hope that this perception evolves.
I think at least amongst your own generation, I think it's becoming less.
A lot of my more recent videos on this channel
it's becoming
have
more
my partner
accepted.
Ellie playing video games, and this has illuminated so many different angles of this topic.
They play
initial
Split Fiction.
That featured her gameplay
That's great.
Didn't feature her on camera or a microphone, so there was technically no proof that she actually existed. I received many comments on those videos that I didn't actually have a girlfriend and that I was just making her up. As we've begun filming ourselves for these videos, I've received countless comments condescending Ellie's gameplay, or the fact that she's even featured at all. What's particularly sad about these comments is that they likely weren't authored by people unfamiliar with video games looking down on someone who plays. They were written by fellow gamers, by people who understand the ridicule that can come with investing yourself in this hobby. It's hard to make any headway towards a brighter communal future when people within it espouse the same tired rhetoric as the people who don't understand. There's a repeated sentiment on these videos, though, that has struck me the most.
Before he gets into this next point, for criticizing her, we just did a video, we just reacted to a video of her playing Expedition 33. I had my criticisms and everything of gameplay, but it's not like critical of her playing the game to begin with. It's just like the flaws she has in playing it, just like, because nobody's perfect. It's like if you caught me playing a freaking Souls-like game, I'd be getting eaten alive in the comments of how horrible I do in those things. Or like an RTS game or something. I'm sure I'd be doing horrible, and there'd be plenty of criticism to be thrown at me. It has nothing to do with the fact that she's playing the game or anything. Everybody has flaws, especially when it's a type of game that you don't normally play. I'm just simply pointing out what what I would do differently or anything like that. I had no obviously intent toward her. It was just like what we were seeing, and then I was also trying to point out whenever we saw her doing better at things and being very Like I just thought it was. I was just
I've
reacting
seen so many people
more
tell
than
me how
anything.
lucky I am to have a partner that's willing to play video games. Just as
That's
many
yeah.
comments have articulated how lucky I am to have a girlfriend at all. I've seen so many people express how much they wish they had a partner of their own to play games with,
Mhm.
and how hopeless the prospect of ever finding one seems. These statements resonate with me so.
Uh, and I'm married. We do not really play video games together at all. It's not something she's really. I wouldn't say that she's not interested in. It's just there aren't really any games that we would play together because most of the games that and we have played some, but just very very rarely. I couldn't tell you the last time we did. Um, it's probably been years, but um, we'll like watch gameplay of stuff together. She can still appreciate like a decent game sometimes. Like she played Pikmin 3 Deluxe on Switch recently, and she was loving it. Um, so like recently, it was like earlier this year, like 6 months ago, but still for her that's recent. Um, and most of the games I play are single player anyways. And she usually doesn't just because most of the time if we're playing a game, I've played it a lot more than she has on the very rare chance that she's played it at all. Um, and she just like doesn't really like to do that because it would be very one sided. Um, for the most part. She also played some Mario Kart World earlier this year as well. When I first got the Switch 2. Um, she's not like against video games or anything like that. She's not as into them as I am. We don't really play games together, but I mostly play single player games anyways. Or if I am playing multiplayer games, it's usually with Alex because that's just our thing.
Much because I was in their shoes. When I was younger, I wanted a partner so badly, but it felt impossible. I didn't want guy friends coming over to my house, let alone someone I had a crush on. Look, I was a really anxious teenager. The
I
concept
still
of
need to
dating
play
would
this
have
game.
terrified me no matter what, but my love of
I
video
want to play
games
Kena
felt
Bridge
like
of
an
Spirits.
albatross that made the journey that much harder. And yet, I did find a partner, one that not only accepts my love of video games, but has embraced the hobby herself. The shared consumption of games has enhanced our relationship, not sabotaged it.
Um, yes, I totally understand that. One thing I will say, when we first started, she did not understand initially why somebody would want to watch somebody play video games on the internet, um, like on YouTube. She just didn't get it. What the reason was, like Let's Plays, like why would you the old phrase, why would you watch someone play video games instead of just playing the game yourself? Um, and my usual counter argument is why would you watch somebody play sports instead of playing the sport yourself? Um, though my reasoning isn't exactly the same because usually when you're watching sports, you're watching somebody that's very good at it, which some people still do for video games. They watch the people that are very good at games, like esports players and competitive game players, but that's not usually what I'm watching them for. I'm usually watching ones that are more entertainment focused. I showed her initially, just to show her how fun these could be. I showed her the Game Grumps playthrough of Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric, one of my favorite Let's Play series ever, and she loved it. She thought it was hilarious, and so we watched more Game Grumps, and then Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and plenty of other just gaming YouTubers do Let's Plays of stuff, and she was actually starting to get things now, and now totally understands it. Now every day when she goes to bed, she's turning on the Game Grumps playthrough of Supermarket Simulator or Markiplier and friends playing Uno on, or something like that, because now she totally gets it and is also on board with it. She watches it quite a bit. So it's sometimes they can also be warmed up to stuff.
To speak very clearly to anyone who feels this kind of hopelessness that I'm describing. Your love of video games will never inhibit.
When I say she goes to bed, she ends up going to bed earlier than me usually because of our work schedules at the moment with her student teaching and my job tending to be later in the morning and going later into the evening. She has to be up super early, so she goes to bed earlier than I do.
You from finding a partner. If someone passes you by because you enjoy video games, I can say with absolute certainty that they were not the right person. If anything, your hobby will help you because passion is attractive. Celebrate and embrace what you're passionate about. I love hearing people talk about the things they love to do, even if I'm completely ignorant to it. Nothing is for everyone, but externalizing your excitement about something will always be cool. If you lean into what brings you to life, you will connect with other people and eventually find a partner who will lean into it with you. Your eligibility is not defined by what you love to do. The more that we reject these stereotypes and
I've just
rhetoric, the
played
more we
this.
exhume ourselves from the societal baggage
I
resting
just played
upon
this.
us and begin pushing the pendulum in the other direction. I've made a lot of progress in my acceptance of my gaming identity in recent years, and yet, as I've spent 2025 trying to turn my gaming YouTube channel into a full-time career, I've found myself infected with the same self-conscious mindset that a past version of me knew all too well. When someone's asked me what I do for a living, the notion of leading with, "I run a YouTube channel," is one that sends a chill down my spine. I'm so quick to contextualize, explaining quickly that I was laid off from my real job and just trying this crazy YouTube dream for a year. Why can't I just own it? Trying to write about video games for a living has presented me with the same insecurity that playing them caused me 15 years ago. I guess all I can really do is tell myself the same thing that I tell anyone else.
I feel like nowadays, saying that you run a YouTube channel is less of a you're still not going to get a great response, especially from like older generations up. But it's not necessarily so much going to be like that's not a viable career. It's more so of a it's not a I say it's not a real job. They'll say because like it's an easy job or something. Which I'm not going to say whether and depends on what you do. Some people will straight up just tell you it's easy, like, but they just record videos and upload it and it's fun and people watch it and all the fair to them. And then other people are out there doing like out making full on documentaries every week. And I'm sure the videos that he's uploading, he probably spends a ton of time in editing, working on these. So it's not like it's something super easy. He's still putting in the work for it. But I'm sure he's also really having fun with it as well. I hope he is. But I feel like that's more so the response going to be not so much that like you can't make a career out of it as much as it is like, oh, it's an easy job is the response he's likely going to get. Like, oh, you get, or if anything, they'll probably assume he makes more money than he does when you say that. Because everybody, like, I feel like people just assume these people are filthy rich just because they run the YouTube channel because they hear of these people being celebrities now.
The same thing that I wish I could tell my younger self. It is okay to be passionate. It's okay to embrace what you love. And seriously, it's okay to play video games.
Yeah. It's great. Love it. Great video. Let me see what the comments are here. I'm sure there'll be plenty of heartwarming comments here. Some people spend endless hours watching sports and they never get criticized. It's the kind of positive masculinity we need right now. Never change, Wilson. I wonder what he said to that. Thank you so much. Very, very grateful for your support and friendship. One of things that bugs me about the way non-gamers judge those of us who play games is that they never take the time to think about how the types of games we play indicate the things about our personality and interest. For example, parents will complain that their son waste all of his time on games, but if they paid attention to the type of games their son is playing, they might learn about his real world interest. Like if he plays a lot of racing games, he may be into cars, or if he plays sword fighting games, maybe they should sign him up for fencing lessons. If he plays open world games, this may indicate a deep desire for adventure and exploration. They should get him involved in camping or Boy Scouts or something similar. But instead, they judge him on a very superficial surface level and say that he doesn't have an interest in anything but video games. Sometimes video games are a way to relax and escape, but sometimes they are catalysts to explore things you don't have the money or opportunity to do in the real world. Yeah, that is very true. I used to try to keep it a secret that I played games, but since I started talking about them more openly, people say I have a completely different aura. That has something to do with the passion you mentioned at the end. Thanks for that perspective. Letting everyone consider these feelings, interesting perspective to hear about. It's interesting how people will dismiss video games but then spend hours binging a TV series, seemingly unaware of the double standard. Anything can be bad for you if abused, but with moderation, video games have great benefits for us. No, I definitely don't feel guilty. Yeah, definitely shouldn't feel guilty. I'm somebody who's always been of the mindset of people that are going to judge you for this aren't worth taking their opinion into consideration to begin with. Um, it's just not. I don't don't put like people that are going to judge you over the most superficial things like this. Don't um, don't take their opinion that seriously. It's a it's not it's just not worth it. Like putting your time into what like focus. How do I put this? I'm trying to word this. Um, putting all of your time into or wasting your time on somebody that just doesn't like or that is just judging you for the superficial levels are not somebody whose opinion you should be focusing on to begin with. People that don't have like actual constructive criticism. I can't think of the words I want to use. Um, but yeah, just don't like somebody who's just judging you. So if you have a problem, that is something different. There's such thing as like addiction and a problem happening, but most of the time, if it's just for being into video games to begin with, yeah, don't take anybody's opinion too seriously. Let's see what up.